Less than 10 games remain in the NBA's regular season, and the Eastern Conference is as close as ever. And tonight here in rainy Toronto, the Air Canada Centre will seat another sellout crowd and feature two of the best scorers in pro basketball. This is the NBA on TNT. The Detroit Pistons are thriving on the road, while the Raptors are closing in on their franchise's first ever playoff berth. Good evening, everyone. Kevin Harlan sitting alongside John Thompson. Craig Sager is around the arena tonight. Great to have you with us from Ontario. Toronto's Charles Oakley said you should play the final 20 games of the regular season with your playoff face on. And his Raptors are right now in free fall. They've lost 7 of their last 8 games. They've lost Eastern Conference playoff positioning. And maybe worse yet, they may have lost team chemistry. Rumors of discord emerging from the Toronto locker room. And John Thompson, when you take a look at the timing of this, it's horrible. But issues seem to be gripping this team at the worst possible time.
Well, Kevin, you're absolutely correct. The timing is horrible. But we need to cut out some of the meetings. We need to forget about the issues. We need to stop talking about whether the ball should go inside, outside, and play basketball. These people are in contention for a playoff spot. They have a very exciting team, and they have to get refocused again.
You know, you come in here from the States and you think that Vince Carter is the story with Toronto, but in talking to the Toronto coach, Butch Carter, he says the most consistent guy over the last 10, 12 games has been young Tracy McGrady.
Well, and I think that that's a great thing to say because McGrady has been playing well, but it's also the most opportune time for him to play well. They're getting ready for the playoffs, so if McGrady steps up, now you've got Vince Carter playing well, then you add in some of the older guys and cut out these doggone meetings and play basketball.
Now, you had some meetings at Georgetown. Come on, you must have had some meetings.
I was the only one that talked, though.
Let's talk about Detroit. The only guy talking there is the new coach, George Irvin. He's done a nice job in the last month.
Well, he's done a tremendous job. I think that this team is getting on focus. One of the real reasons, I think, is Lindsey Hunter, because he's adapting to the point guard position. That makes Jerry Stackhouse more comfortable. That also makes Grant Hill more comfortable. And these guys don't have to go in their backcourt as much. I think if this team continues to play well, it's going to really be a sore spot on somebody's nerves. But they've got to answer the problem in the post position defensively and offensively.
Let's see now. Vince Carter against Grant Hill has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
Wow.
We expect that kind of game tonight here in Toronto. First we go to Atlanta with Ernie Johnson. And it's back here to Toronto for the NBA on TNT. The Raptors against the Pistons. Welcome back. This is the NBA on TNT nationwide tonight from Toronto, Ontario, the Air Canada Centre. And for the Detroit Pistons, who come in at 37 and 35, Hunter, Stackhouse, Hill, Mills, and Christian Laettner. For the Raptors, 7 games over 500, Christie, McGrady, Carter, Davis, and Charles Oakley. Let's send it over to Craig Sager.
A team photo for the playoff guide in a 10-minute meeting yesterday turned into a 3-hour filibuster for Toronto. Todd Christie said they had stars, but they're bathing in mediocrity. Vince Carter said after winning 11 out of 12, they start believing the hype. Muggsy Bogues said they don't play with any enthusiasm on defense. Kevin Willis said there's no structure to the rotations. He needs 10 to 12 shots a game. But it was Charles Oakley who said, it's like we all got a shiny new car, we were showing it off, and I got banged up, and it's in the shop. He said, guess what, guys? We can be like Jed Clampett, pack it up, or we can be like the Jeffersons and move on up. He then started singing the theme song, Moving On Up the East Side, the East Conference. It broke the ice, and it could be the defining moment for Toronto. Kevin?
Nice, Craig. Thank you. Laettner right off the bat hits one off the block, and it's 2-0 Detroit.
Well, that's a good sign because Christian Laettner is a very good offensive player, and he's really been a little bit more content this year with making plays as opposed to using his offense.
And here comes Lindsey Hunter the other way. A steal, and Laettner slams it in.
Well, and that's Detroit's defense. Lindsey Hunter is a very good defensive player, and he's going to give Christian all the problems he can have.
Big backcourt for the Raptors, and here's McGrady dueling with Mills. Out of bounds with 16 seconds to play. Defense, as George Irvin, the coach of the Pistons, was telling us today, is the thing that will make this team tick.
Well, and that was an example of it because Christie is so tall, but yet Hunter is down there quick and a very good ball defender.
Now Detroit has won 5 of their last 6 on the road. And they had a West Coast road swing a couple of weeks ago where they went 4-1. And across the lane, Stackhouse finds 2.
Well, and it's too easy early in the game. Hopefully it's a question of them getting warm because the Raptors have to play better defense than this.
So a quick 6-0 lead for the Detroit Pistons. Carter works on Hill for 3. Vince Carter, who is the 3rd leading scorer in the NBA.
Well, it's always a good sign when you see him hitting the jumper. I think he's having a lot harder time getting those dunks because those players are getting a little sick of being in that highlight film on the wrong side of it.
He's certainly taken punishment. Here's Terry Mills, a Michigan native, picked up by Doug Christie, who's from Seattle, and he comes the other way, and John playing point at 6'6".
Well, he's playing point at 6'6", but I think Hunter's going to force him to pass the ball a lot more because Hunter's very good as he just did defensively.
Another steal, sliding in for 2, and the Detroit Pistons on top by a count of 8-3.
Well, Vince Carter indicated the fact that the point position was the thing that he had a concern about, and I think that that's a perfect example of it when you get somebody like this. Oh, they're just taking the basketball from him.
2-on-1, Stackhouse and Hill with Oakley in the middle and the ball knocked away. Now Toronto is number 4 in the NBA in turnovers. They just do not turn it over.
Well, but Detroit's defense is really alive early in the ball game. And I think, all these meetings and all this discussions that the Raptors are having, you got to get to a point where you look at this as a trap. He's trying to break the trap, and they're really all over the ball, take the ball from you and go down the court. But the Raptors have to just loosen up and play together.
Here's Grant Hill at the free throw line, battling left ankle problems, but John nonetheless having the best season in his NBA career.
Well, quietly the 3rd leading scorer in the NBA.
Yes.
Who would know that? You asked that question, you wouldn't know it because so much is made out of Allen Iverson and Shaq being 1 and 2.
Here's Vince Carter. Off to Christie and inside to former Indiana Pacer Antonio Davis, who was whacked hard and fouled inside by Jerry Stackhouse, the former Tar Heel from North Carolina.
Well, in that possession, I was really surprised Kevin Mills is even really into this Detroit defensive thing. He was fighting Davis very hard that time, trying to hold his position on the inside.
Vince Carter will inbound. Carter taking the place of Olympian Tom Gugliotta this summer in Sydney. Gugliotta blowing a knee a couple weeks ago. Here's Davis again, spinning on Mills, leading inside for 2.
Well, that's good. And I'd like to see the Raptors, particularly McGrady and Carter, penetrate a lot more rather than stand outside and throw up those jump shots.
And look at Hunter. Knife his way right through the Toronto defense on that drive.
Well, and looking at this, Davis does a good job. He faces his man, and then he attacks the basket and puts pressure on the defense. Anytime somebody's putting as much pressure on the ball as Detroit is, you have to do a lot more penetrating than trying to shoot over top of these guys.
Here's Lindsey Hunter at the free throw line, a kid born and raised in Mississippi. And ironically enough, when he was growing up in Mississippi, he idolized Isaiah Thomas, and it was at Thomas's urging when he still was with the Pistons that they draft Lindsey Hunter. They did, and the rest is history.
Well, that wasn't a bad decision because he really can shoot the ball. And if he's adapting, as they say, to the point guard position, he's really going to be dangerous.
Grant Hill missing the shot. Here comes Tracy McGrady, a free agent to be for the Toronto Raptors. Christie to Oakley, who played 10 years in New York, and a whistle away from the ball, down low, and Leitner is guilty, covering Antonio Davis. Leitner picks up his first of the game. Leitner now playing a lot more 4 and 5.
Well, he is, but, also I think he sacrificed a lot of his offense to get out there, rebound, and play defense, and do a lot of big man kind of things for this team because that's one of the weaknesses of this Piston team. They need to have a presence in the middle.
Muggsy Bogues is checked in, the shortest man in the history of the NBA at 5'3" in the game. At the point, they hem in Carter. Out to McGrady, cross court to Oakley, who puts up a 2 and misses in the rebound by Christian Leitner.
Well, Kevin, and I think Hunter's pressure on the ball forced the substitution to put Muggsy in the ball game.
Good point. Mills finds Grant Hill working on Carter. We talked about this matchup before. The rebound by Davis. And Toronto down by 5 the other way with Bogues weaving through traffic out to Charles Oakley.
Well, and that was good. That was good defense at the other end. It's interesting, just the short period of time that Muggsy has been in the game, he's created a fast break. He's taken a lot of the pressure off of the defense that Detroit has put on them.
Here's Stackhouse, the all-star for the first time, missing, and a whistle and a foul. And Leitner picks up his second foul. He has collected 3 rebounds. Just talking about the importance of Leitner, who came to this team injury-prone a year ago from Atlanta.
Well, and he's become a lot more physical in his game. You know, the old Christian Leitner was a finesse player, a guy who took a lot of shots outside. Now he's content to make the play, but he's made himself more of a physical presence inside because of the need of this team.
So Jerome Williams will take his place, a kid, John, who played for you at Georgetown his last 2 years, and Carter on the outside.
Well, and rebound. Jerome is doing an excellent job of just getting rebounds.
What a move by Vince Carter.
That's what I'm talking about, Kevin. They've got to go to the basket and penetrate more and put a lot more pressure on this defense.
Nice running jump shot, but just missing his Hill, who thought he was wrestled with down low. Here comes McGrady the other way. 1-on-1 with Stackhouse. Flipping it to Carter for 3. Rebound tapped by Davis, kept alive by Bogues.
Let's see him going back to that outside 3 shooting. He still want a little bit more penetration, particularly by McGrady because of his ball handling ability.
And McGrady knocks down a 3. But what about the hard work inside of rebounder Antonio Davis?
Well, and he worked. He has to work for this team inside because both of these teams leave something to be desired as far as the great big center that you have inside.
Toronto is on a 7-0 run. Stackhouse and the Pistons led earlier 6-0. Stackhouse with a drive across the lane. Rebound by Oakley. And here comes Bogues. Ripping it to Carter. No look inside. And brought down hard with a great play is Tracy McGrady.
Well, you attribute that again to Muggsy for stepping up the tempo and getting down quickly and not allowing Detroit to put the kind of pressure they have been putting on them.
Here's Tracy McGrady at the free throw line, a guy that we brought up Isaiah Thomas before. This was one of Isaiah Thomas's first draft picks with the Toronto Raptors.
Well, but Butch Carter's done a heck of a job with him, bringing him along, even providing him with a counselor and trying to help him to develop psychologically as well as physically. And he's now one of the main factors on this team.
Here's Jerome Williams, a high school point guard, now an NBA center and power forward. Rebound McGrady. Detroit back on defense as McGrady finds Bogues, who's open for 2. And over the backboard, but corralled by Williams. Now they say it is over the backboard and out of bounds. The Toronto Raptors with Vince Carter on a 10-0 run. Carter's got 5 and the Raptors on top 15-10. On the left, who has almost dropped in the NBA hierarchy. We were surprised to see that he was ranked so high in NBA scoring, and John, one of the top players in the league, and you can see the comparative numbers right there. You know, when Carter now has to wear that on his shoulder, a lot of attention has been thrust onto Vince Carter.
Well, it definitely has, and I think Grant Hill is absolutely correct in saying that I'm glad it's you and not me, because Grant is having a great season, and it's not as much noticed because all this comparison with Michael Jordan stuff is out of people's minds with it.
Missed by Grant Hill, who has hired his own shooting coach this year. Hill so far, though, not showing the effects of that tutoring. He is 0 for 4. And here is Carter. Draws the quick double, thus Oakley is free. And they've watched Oakley take a lot of long-range shots already in this game.
Well, it's not a bad shot for Oakley because basically he is a set shooter. But I'd rather see Carter and I'd rather see McGrady penetrate on that team. And then if that's not there, then look for the outside shot.
Bogues picks up the foul. Neither team has made a substitution aside from Bogues coming in at the point. They have sometimes used D. Brown back there, but the smaller Bogues could have more success as Mills finds Stackhouse, who works on McGrady and takes him across the lane. Rejected by McGrady, number 11 in the NBA in block shots. A 3-on-2, Bogues to Carter for 3.
Well, that was a great shot. I think, and again, I think Muggsy Bogues is having a tremendous effect on this game. Particularly the attitude of the Raptors has changed, and the pace definitely has changed in getting it out and getting it down.
A 13-0 run by the Toronto Raptors.
Well, and looking at this, Tracy McGrady, even though he plays the perimeter, is one of the best shot blockers on this team. You know, he does a good job of just not going for the first fake, letting Stackhouse commit, and then going up and blocking the shot.
Pistons just committed their first turnover as McGrady works on Stackhouse, and Hill picks up Carter. Goes behind his back, and Oakley, the Cleveland, Ohio native, tries to get it and slides out of bounds. The 4th Toronto turnover so far for Coach Butch Carter.
Well, and Oak is still not afraid to dive for it. I didn't think that was a good pass. You're throwing a blind pass to Oakley. He didn't expect it, but he dove on the floor to try to make up for it.
Terry Mills up high, played for Miami the last couple years, but was injury prone most of the time. Jerome Williams pump faking inside, and the deceptive move buys him 2.
Well, and Jerome does a great job of backing up players that are supposed to be stars. He gets rebounds, he plays defense, he does a lot of the dirty work, and then when you forget about him, he'll actually kill you.
That's Detroit's first field goal in about 4 minutes as McGrady's on the perimeter. And inside is Davis, quickly doubled to Oakley, swings it over to Carter for 3. Rebound by Mills.
And then again, Kevin, you know what I mean? Still, I want to see penetration. Penetrate. Get ball movement and penetrate.
Hill outside. And the rebound by Antonio Davis. Carter the other way. Look for Carter. Flies inside. Rocked by Mills. And Carter goes down hard, ramming his way into that photographer right there. A little early playoff contact.
Well, I think so. You know, the playoffs are coming. As I said at the top of the show, players are getting a little bit upset with being the backside of that highlight film. I don't want to be dunked on anymore. These guys are a lot more intense. I guess that's one of the reasons why there's not as much driving. But when you drive, you will get a second opportunity by going to the foul line. Particularly guys like Carter and Tracy McGrady, who are capable of going to the basket.
Crazy thing is, he almost made it. The Daytona, Florida native, as you can see, the scoring leaders with Hill and Carter right there side by side in slots 3 and 4. And Vince Carter, who is playing with a bad right shoulder. He hurt it the other day bumping into Rick Smits. And after the game could not even raise his arm above his shoulder, but he's taken the treatment and playing and starting tonight.
Well, it's interesting, again, the effect that Muggsy Bogues is having on this game. Jerome Williams had to bring that ball up the floor that time. Now they're trying to post him, but he's really causing a problem for this team.
Here's Stackhouse driving into a trio of Raptor defenders, and a whistle and a foul blown inside. And he is racked on the play by Grant Hill, who has struggled himself.
Well, and looking at this, Stackhouse goes by Oakley, but the help comes from the weak side, which it is good. You know, they come over to try to give some help to him, but Stackhouse did a good thing also. I think he and Hill are also capable of penetrating. When you look at the Raptors, they don't really have a shot blocker, but McGrady, and he plays outside. So if I were Detroit, I'd look to penetrate Kevin against this team also.
Davis picks up the foul. Mikey Moore has checked in for the Detroit Pistons, and Kevin Willis has come in for the Toronto Raptors, joining McGrady, Bogues, Carter, and Oakley. And Stackhouse hits another free throw for the Detroit Pistons.
Jerome Williams started to go over to trap Muggsy and gave up on him. Muggsy will just duck down and go through it.
Pistons from the line. Left on. 3 of 5. To McGrady with the great pass on the wing from Charles Oakley.
Well, the only way that's going to be stopped is put more pressure on the passer so that he can't make the pass, because you're not going to defend that on the guy who's shooting the ball.
Carter and McGrady have accounted for 18 of Toronto's 22 points, and this right there by Stackhouse. And here comes the 5'3" Bogues the other way. Spent most of his career with Charlotte, and Kevin Willis inside. Rebound by Stackhouse. Detroit with numbers. Flying inside. He goes right into the teeth of the defense of Vince Carter. And Carter draws his first foul.
Well, and looking at this, you see Oakley. He made eye contact with McGrady. McGrady set it up with a great reversal, and Oakley threw a good pass. The only way you can possibly stop that is to pressure Oakley and not permit him to throw that kind of pass.
Stackhouse at the free throw line, and John, here is a player, as much as they hated to see the retirement of current Piston Vice President Joe Dumars, it certainly opened things up a little bit for Stackhouse.
Well, it did, and certainly you'd love to have Dumars here also, particularly the Dumars that you and I knew. But in the same token, Stackhouse has answered that challenge and come up and started to play well. this ball game is really becoming an up and down the floor ball game, particularly since Bogues got in the game. Both of these teams are going up and down the floor at a pretty quick pace.
Del Curry is in for the first time for Toronto, a great three-point shooter. Carter with the miss. Rebound is inhaled by Williams of Detroit. A foul called on Carter, who was watching Hunter zip the other way, and Vince Carter picks up number 2.
Well, he does, and you look at him, Muggsy Bogues out there now. He looks like he's a little tired because he's having an effect defensively and offensively on the team out there.
And look at, he's had an effect on the team. Michael Curry is checked in for Detroit. Lindsey Hunter, Bogues has been defending, is at the free throw line for the Detroit Pistons.
And isn't it amazing the smallest guy on the court had such an impact on the tempo of this game, both offensively and defensively. Defensively, he started to apply pressure. Hunter was driving him crazy with his pressure, and now Muggsy is able to just duck down and go through everybody.
Doug Christie is in for the Raptors with Willis, Curry, Oakley, and Bogues. Carter is on the bench, and McGrady is on the bench for Toronto. That's been the thrust of their scoring so far in this first quarter. Down the lane, over Mikey Moore, and can't get it. With a whistle inside, a foul called on Toronto. Well, he went over the backboard. And a timeout taken. Play Miami. Playoffs begin in mid-April right here on TNT and TBS. Kevin Harlan, John Thompson, Craig Sager from the Air Canada Center. Here in Toronto is Michael Curry. In his second stint in his career with the Detroit Pistons, tries to rumble inside, and Del Curry makes the foul.
That almost looked a little bit like that warm-up drill.
The players got in a football stance and tried to block the players from coming out after they were being introduced. And some early numbers in this game as you take a look at one of the great success stories in the NBA. Michael Curry, undrafted out of tiny Georgia Southern. He's played in Germany, Belgium, France, the USBL, the CBA, Italy, Spain, 5 NBA teams, John, over 7 years. And now he signs a 5-year contract with Detroit during the offseason. And it's the longest of his career. Grant Hill personally wanted this guy on this team.
Well, that's the kind of guy you don't want guarding you, because he's been all those places. You know, doggone well he doesn't want to go back.
Too many bus trips. Here goes Christie working on Curry, and a whistle and a foul. John Crotty has now come in for the Detroit Pistons.
This is number 31, Mikey Moore, his first foul of the game.
And the foul called on Mikey Moore. Let's set the lineups because both teams have substituted liberally here. And we'll start with Toronto. Kevin Willis is at the free throw line. Del Curry, Tracy McGrady back in with Oakley and Christie. And for the Detroit Pistons, as you take a look at the longtime Atlanta Hawk, Kevin Willis. And by the way, from national champion Michigan State. And he was wearing proudly today, we saw it, the shoot-around is Michigan State.
He flashed it. He flashed us with the Michigan State shirt.
He was very happy about that. Jerome Williams out there for Detroit with Mikey Moore, John Crotty, Stackhouse, and Michael Curry.
Well, the pace of the game is causing the substitutes. Both of these teams are going up and down the floor rather fast, and they're putting a lot of defensive pressure on each other.
Somewhat of a playoff feel to the game. Jerome Williams gashing the defense and knifing for 2.
Well, it was a great play. Oakley stayed off of him and gave him the jump shot, and Jerome did a smart thing. He went to him and just went around him.
Under 2 to play. Raptors are shooting 6 of 18 and 47% shooting for the Pistons. Here's Willis with a nice hook inside.
Well, that's one of those 10 shots that he said in the meeting he wanted to have.
Williams on top. Here's John Crotty. Played at Virginia, undrafted. Michael Curry outside with the move on the 20-year-old McGrady and goes across the lane with the finger roll.
Well, I tell you, that was a great move. He just went straight to the basket. Both of these teams, I think the prescription is to drive on each other because both of these teams don't have a significant shot blocker in there.
McGrady the miss from outside. Detroit is on a 9-4 run after a 13-0 run by Toronto. Through traffic, Williams leading the break, feeding to Stackhouse.
Well, the most significant thing Jerome did, he went from an under basket position to get a rebound in the corner and then blew the ball out, came down and made a great pass.
Like the point guard he was in high school.
Who said that?
Christie with the miss. McGrady fetches another offensive rebound for the Raptors.
Well, I tell you, it's a lot of contact on the inside in this game.
Travel on Willis. That'll turn it over. It's number 5 called on the Raptors. Willis has been shooting great of late. 50% shooting in the month of March. And at 7 foot, one of the tallest, in fact, the tallest Raptor on the team. Crotty, who played last year at Seattle, threads a bounce pass to Williams, who finds his way for a nice shot.
Well, and Jerome is doing a good job of not being suckered into taking that jumper. He's taking that ball right to Oakley and going right over him, and that's really a sign of maturity on his part. You know, his game is really coming around.
Jerome Williams, 3 of 4. Grant Hill back in the game for the Pistons. McGrady hooks it over for Curry, who last year led the NBA in three-point shooting, but this year, John, is just inside the top 20 at number 19.
He may be just inside the top 20, but you always get a pain in your chest when you find him that open shooting the basketball.
Grant Hill trying to beat the buzzer and puts it in with .2 on the first quarter clock. Great shot by Grant Hill, hitting his first field goal. He goes 1 of 6. But Vince Carter was invincible. 10 points, 2 rebounds. And the Toronto Raptors, in a crucial game against their division opponent Detroit, lead at the end of 1, 29-28.
I think for sure we're glad that this is the NBA and not the NCAA. That would be a violation.
Sounds like a guy who was just down in Indianapolis. That's what you were.
I'm going to promise to change the name on my donut shop.
That's got to be a violation.
I'm sure that would make him come, too.
Well, if he gets free donuts, he's going to come. We begin the second quarter with Christie feeding Del Curry. Davis is in. McGrady is in. And Willis is in. Nice outside shot by Curry, who's hit 2 in a row since coming off the bench, and it gives the Raptors a 3-point lead.
Well, you don't want to let this guy get going. You know, they give him the open shot, he hits it, now he's scoring off of the dribble, which most of the time, you know, you're looking for him to spot up and shoot the ball, but you give him that confidence, you got a major problem there. Second
turnover for the Detroit Pistons as Carter finishes the first quarter with 10. Stackhouse with 7. 6 turnovers, by the way, for the Raptors. The Pistons had made their last 5 shots of the first quarter. McGrady the miss, gets it back inside. Davis got a hand on it, knocked away by, look at the former high school point guard, Williams, go the other way, and then dish to Hill, rejected by Christie, saved by McGrady, gets it off to Davis. And here comes Christie with the no-look to Willis. He loses the ball. Williams the other way. Crotty with the frenetic pace here in Toronto, and Jerome Williams driving and is called for the charge. This is a 6'10" power forward in Jerome Williams, taking it like a guard.
Well, he's doing a good job of bringing it down, particularly in transition. You know, and then, you know, Christie made a great block, you know, on the shot. Jerome gets it, and then the tempo got so ragged at one point, he ends up charging. These guys are tight, Kevin. They're going up and down the floor.
Leitner back in as they take out Mikey Moore. Curry is on Christie. Grant Hill is on McGrady. Carter still on the bench for Toronto. Shot clock at 9. And inside he searches for Antonio Davis and knocked out of bounds with 7 seconds to shoot.
Well, you know, and you've got to get a little bit more ball movement, but I still would love to see McGrady. He had not lost his dribble, Kevin. I'd love to have seen him to look to penetrate off of that once the defense had settled in. You don't let a shooter get started. If you're going to be aggressive on somebody, you better get on this guy.
Del Curry has come off the bench to hit 3 consecutive shots. Hill drives inside, knocked off his horse, and a whistle blown.
Well, see, and that's the merits of going to the basket. You will pick up the foul. You know, Grant went very aggressively that time. There's always a concern when you see that kind of player get hit like that. But in the same token, going towards the basket creates so much problem for any defense that's applying pressure.
So the foul is called on Antonio Davis as you take a look at Grant Hill, 5-time All-Star starter. And Johnny has had a great career and a great season this year, arguably the best of his career. 25 30-point games this year. And George Coach Irvin has been outstanding about limiting the minutes for Hill, especially in the middle of the game when he can catch his breath, so he is fresh late in the game when it matters.
Well, the thing I love about Grant is he lets the game come to him. He doesn't press for shots and passes the ball, and all of a sudden he attacks you. You know, obviously he didn't take a lot of shots early in this ball game, and now he's stepping it up a little bit.
Vince Carter back in for the Raptors. Here's Willis working on Leitner. Doubled by Williams. Out to Christie. Shot clock showing 7. The drive into Crowdy inside. Tapped up and in by Willis.
Well, Christie thinks he can take Crowdy. When Hunter was on him, he had a lot of trouble putting the ball on the floor. But now with Crowdy in there, he definitely feels he can penetrate it. The silent killer is ready again.
Graceful at the other end is Grant Hill. Stab the great NFL running back Calvin Hill. And here's Carter with Hill on him. Sliding inside for 2. Look very easy.
Yeah, but I like that. You know, I mean, it's not as much a highlight film, but in the same token, he's going towards the basket, which puts pressure on the defense. When he and McGrady stands out there and launches up those long shots, I don't think this team would be as effective in the playoffs if they do that. Hill
hits another one. Hill began the game 0 of 5, and now he is 3 of 9.
What I say, he lets the game come to him.
Yep, right.
I think he thinks it has come to him.
Carter again. Hill is there and knocked it away and ricochets off the knee of Carter.
Boy, that's that matchup we were talking about. It's the two of them playing against one another out there. You know,
and a technical foul has just been assessed. The Toronto Raptors. More on that when we come back. Vince Carter was just given a tee, and so at the other end is Grant Hill. Now Carter has 2 fouls as Grant Hill hits the free throw. Now the timeout. 9:11 remaining in the first half. 2-point game.
Toronto leading by 2 among those in the sellout crowd. Chris Carter, the all-pro receiver from Minnesota, and the brother of Butch Carter. You guys obviously are preparing not only for the playoffs, but a big promotional campaign for a book you guys wrote, Brothers Born to Believe. Why'd you write the book? What's it about?
Well, I think it came out of the situation. Butch spoke to some college, high school students here in the Toronto area, and I had already been working on a book in the process of doing it, and then we just put our heads together and collaborated on the book and did it separate of each other, and then put it together at the end.
It's about overcoming obstacles. Now, Butch played at Indiana for Coach Knight, who's under a lot of criticism lately. Anything in there about that?
Well, he's definitely going to have something in there. If you spend 4 years with Coach Knight, I'm sure it's going to impart you in some aspect of your life. You know, as far as what's going to be in there, I'm sure it's going to be something that's going to be very good.
All right, good luck. We'll be out in a couple of weeks.
All right.
Kevin, Coach?
Thank you, Craig. Grant Hill persevering inside after Antonio Davis had knocked one away. Hill began the game in the first quarter with 1 point. The last 3 minutes, 11 points for Grant Hill.
How long ago was that? McKinney can score. My goodness,
you said it quickly. You called it. Here comes Tracy McGrady. Born in Florida, raised in North Carolina. Kevin Willis. Vince Carter and a touch pass to Christie.
Well, the Raptors, Kevin, as you indicated earlier, have to get a lot of movement, because if you are going to penetrate like that, you know, you're going to have guys defensively out of the lane a little bit more.
A foul on the Detroit Pistons, and Grant Hill picks up his first, and here's Vince Carter at the free throw line as you take a look at referee Bernie Fryer. Vince Carter, who is going to be here at least for a couple more years. But, John, again, you go back to all the attention he's been getting, not only off the floor, but on the floor. I mean, he has been getting whipped physically by taking the ball inside.
Well, they're making him pay a price for everything now when he goes in there. I think everybody's a little bit sick of seeing those highlight films of him. They're touching him when he goes to the basket. That's why his team has to get more ball movement, toting things up a little bit more.
Detroit shooting 48%, Toronto 47%. Hill trying to work his way inside and drew the foul out of the Toronto defense, and it goes for a third time in Antonio Davis, and that is not a good sign. They need the size. They're already an undersized team to begin with.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You were talking about Hill, Kevin, you know, earlier. It's amazing the timing and taking his time to get the points he wants, but every time he gets the ball, he comes away with something. You know, he's not just launching up shots or trying to create a highlight film. He's going in there to get a basket or get a foul out of that. And that's the thing that's so impressive with experience. And that's what has to happen with Carter. That's what has to happen with McGrady, because they have the ability. Once they get the experience, they're going to know how to pick their spots.
Now Detroit 12 of 17 from the free throw line, and Toronto 6 of 7. 3 previous games with these two teams, they've been averaging about 30 free throws apiece. Oakley, hounded by Leighton. Shot clock down to 8. McGrady, the corkscrew move by Stackhouse.
This kid really has a lot of talent. You're talking about he's getting better and better. When he really gets good, he's going to be unbelievable.
Brady for his 6th. Grant Hill is taking over this game for the Detroit Pistons. He now has 15 points after scoring just a couple in the first quarter. We've got 7.5 to play here in the second quarter.
What do they say? Good things come to those who wait. He's too good.
We're tied at 40 as Carter throws out of a double team. McGrady with the miss. Stackhouse to Crotty. Leitner's on the side. And a great feed. Crotty to the acrobatic Leitner, and out of bounds it goes with a foul called on Toronto inside. And that's on Oakley with number 2.
Well, and you're looking at this, Hill is sealing, he's being fronted, he takes it right to the basket, before he penetrated, before he shot a jump shot. He knows how to mix up his stuff very well, Kevin. Makes it so difficult to guard a person like that when you know he's not going to just stand out on the perimeter and launch up threes all the time.
Grant Hill, a Piston for his entire NBA career, but a free agent after this season with a rare miss. We've seen him hit basically everything here in the second quarter, and here comes Muggsy Bogues. The other way, Christie has taken a seat on the Toronto bench. Willis drawing the double. McGrady to Oakley. Fires it down low to Carter with 7 to shoot. Oakley had the ball knocked away by Leitner. Loose at midcourt. Tumbling is Crotty. Shot clock at 1. Bogues can't get it to go. Saved by Mills. Here comes Hill. No look to Leitner. Passing outside. A wide open 3 by Stackhouse.
Well, and that was so unselfish of Christian Leitner because he was right under the basket. Sometimes you think he'd rather make a play than make a shot.
Carter again with the reverse inside. Again, Antonio Davis on the bench with 3 fouls. And a foul is inside on Kevin Willis, tagged with his first. As you take a look at Jerry Stackhouse. And now Vince Carter in a tough game, tied at 40. The New York game over the weekend, and look at Shaquille O'Neal, number 1 in scoring, number 2 in rebounding, last player to lead both. 1966 Wilt Chamberlain. And Clifford Robinson playing well for the Phoenix Suns. I really think that it's a confidence and not a cockiness with the Los Angeles Lakers, and I think the same can be said of Grant Hill.
Both.
Yeah.
Confidence and cockiness. It doesn't matter what you say about the Lakers. They're so dominating. I just think Hill is just so smooth and he's patient. That's the thing that I love about him. He lets so much come to him rather than press to look good.
Foul called on Leitner, who picks up number 3. Grant Hill has been such a story in this second quarter. Detroit has 12 points, and Hill has scored every one of them. In fact, going back to the first quarter, he scored Detroit's last 14 points of the game.
Well, Lindsey Hunter's back in the game now. I see, Kevin. I thought he had a great impact on the pace of this game, particularly defensively, and then he stayed on the bench a long time.
Vince Carter has to go off the foot of Mills. And 5:53 to play as you take a look at Butch Carter, a guy who, as we mentioned before, Craig Sager played for Bobby Knight. And this new book coming out is going to be very interesting to read his comments on playing for Knight. As you take a look at Vince Carter working on Grant Hill, the shot clock down to 15.
But it's no movement, Kevin. It's just isolation and no movement. And you have so much athleticism in McGrady and Carter. If they get a little bit more movement, I've got to believe that they can get to the basket like this and create problems.
Oh, and a great move by Grant Hill, who just works his way through the defense and gets 2 points. Unbelievable. First lead for Detroit since leading 10-9 back in the early stages of the game. Great seductive move by Tracy McGrady.
Kevin, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, he's just got so much ability that he's got to mix up some of those jumpers. Take maybe 3 drives to 1 jump shot.
And Stackhouse answers at the other end. Charles Oakley, the 13-year veteran, the other way, and here comes Vince Carter. Got in a little bit of foul trouble early in the game. Now carries 2 with him. A technical foul has been slapped on him in this game already. Shot clock at 5. Carter over Stackhouse. Rebound by Willis, another offensive rebound. McGrady got a hand on it. Here comes Hunter, triggering to Stackhouse. Back is Carter. Stackhouse to the hole and slammed in by Grant Hill.
Well, both he and Jerome were fighting for the ball in the air, Kevin, and Grant took it and put it in the basket.
Grant Hill with 19 points. And most of them have come here in the second quarter. 16 in the second. Legal defense blown on the Detroit Pistons.
Well, and you're looking at Grant Hill penetrate. I mean, he splits 2 men, and now you're talking about, nobody in the back. Now you look at Stackhouse and Grant Hill and Jerome Williams. You're talking about attacking the ball. They both go up for that rebound. Coach certainly loves to see that.
John Thomas checks in for the Toronto Raptors. Grant Hill checks out for the Detroit Pistons. And outside, another hit. Tracy McGrady. His game has matured so nicely under Butch Carter.
Well, it certainly has. I mean, you look at this team, they've done extremely well based on the fact that they've just been in existence for 5 years. Sometimes Carter's overshadows. Carter's success overshadows what the team has accomplished. But in the same token, it's very difficult in maintaining that hunger in a young group of guys like that.
Carter will leave. And now inside for Toronto. They've got Thomas, Oakley, Curry, Bogues. And the first one doesn't go for Jerome Williams. And McGrady is the 5th Raptor. Every year, John, he has improved his game statistically.
Well, and I think that's just his work ethic, Kevin. Jerome always has been somebody that's spent a lot of time in the game. He's not afraid to do the tough parts of the game while somebody else gets the glory. And that kind of guy always will be successful. And he'll end up getting a lot of glory as a result of it.
Grant Hill is on the Detroit bench. Lindsey Hunter, Curry, Stackhouse, Williams, and Mikey Moore for the Pistons.
I see they're stepping out on Curry now after giving him about 2 or 3 jumpers.
McGrady with the drive. Great screen by Oakley that opened up the door for McGrady.
Well, he's heading towards the basket now. That's always going to put pressure on the defense.
McGrady's got 16 points. Stackhouse into McGrady at the other end. Contorts his body. Rebound by McGrady. Bogues with them, but Detroit back nicely on defense. Here's Bogues left open for a 3. And a foul assessed inside. And this is tagged on Thomas. He's got 2.
Well, and you're looking at this guy, with this size and ability to put the ball on the floor. That's a medium-range shot. That's why I love to see him take the medium-range shot or penetrate all the way to the basket because you put pressure on the defense so much. Kevin, if you look at this game, you've got Stackhouse and you've got Hill on one team, and on this team you have McGrady and Carter. Those are a set of 2 very, very good forwards on this team, in this game. You'd hate to have to guard any one of the 4 of these guys.
Here's Mikey Moore, a player that Detroit got late last season from the CBA, and although they lost Theo Ratliff in the trade that brought Stackhouse to Detroit and sent Ratliff to Philadelphia, Mikey Moore has a lot of Theo Ratliff type of moves in his game.
Well, he's a big physical body inside. Detroit lacks that physical presence in the post position, and Moore helps him with that.
Another screen by Oakley as Curry trying to fire. McGrady is there to clean it up, and he's got 18.
Well, that's a great play. I mean, he went to the other side, got the rebound, and then put it up. And you know, that's just pure athleticism and reaction. This kid is getting better.
Stackhouse fires a three. Rebound, Mikey Moore, a 7-footer. Into Stackhouse. Great pass by Mikey Moore.
And a very good cut by Stackhouse to the ball.
Pistons on top, 51-48. Toronto has won 2 of the 3 meetings this season between these two teams. McGrady. Raptors come in having lost 7 of 8. There's a whistle and a foul. Another screen down low. That is a 9th turnover on the Raptors. That foul goes on Thomas. In this second quarter with all kinds of great moves, and he's coupled with Vince Carter the last 10 games. You can see that from a consistency standpoint, McGrady, in the words of his coach, Butch Carter, has been the guy.
Well, I think he has, Kevin, but in the meantime, the focus hasn't been on him the way it has been on Carter. Carter's been in the spotlight. He's had a lot of interviews. He's had a lot of attention, and he's had a lot of people at the other end of his dunks on highlight film, so everybody's targeting him. When that happens to McGrady, then it's going to help Carter a lot.
Brady's got 10 points this quarter. Grant Hill, shot clock down to 10. Big clock, 2 minutes remaining in the half. Hill's had a spectacular second quarter, and over McGrady, which I think altered the shot, he misses, and he gets it back a fresh 24 seconds, and Stackhouse on the perimeter.
Well, McGrady's pretty good defensive shot block.
Here's Stackhouse, the youngest of 7 brothers. He knew he got tough there, and he carries that on to the NBA. Minute and a half to play in the first half. AT&T halftime coming up with Ernie and Jet down in Atlanta. Muggsy Bogues works the perimeter. Leads the NBA in assist to turnovers. Del Curry again.
Well, that's unbelievable. Some rattlesnakes can't get their tongue out as fast as he can get that ball off. I mean, he is unbelievable in getting this shot off.
I love that. Curry is 4 of 4. You think that quick release has something to do, huh?
Oh, it's extremely quick. You know, and being able to get your shot is just as important as being able to shoot, and he can do both.
And Detroit with Hill getting it off the stack. 56% shooting in this quarter by Detroit. A little shimmy and a drive. Nice move by Stackhouse.
Stack is doing a great job of mixing up his stuff, Kevin. You know, shoots the jumper out, now he penetrates. You know, he gives the defender a lot to think about.
He's got 15. It gives you a different move with every part of his body. Here's Curry with the move, and Bogues again left uncovered. But Brady on the wing, drawing Hill. Rebound, saved by Williams, picked up by Hunter, sprinting the other way, 4 on 3. Mikey Moore slipping inside, can't get it. Oakley with the baseball pass, intercepted by Hill at the other end.
Well, there's a great pass to Moore from Hunter. And, you know, when we saw Hunter play before, he would have taken that shot. And that's what Irvin was talking about when he mentioned the fact that Hunter is becoming more of a point guard, more of involving other people. He has such great shooting ability that a lot of times you would think he'd shoot first. But that'll make you want to shoot it if you pass a ball to a guy like that and he doesn't make it.
Kevin Willis picked up the foul. Jerome Williams will be at the free throw line. You can see the shooting this quarter. And George Irvin, who we talked about before, taking over in early March for Alvin Gentry, who, by the way, is now coaching the Harlem Globetrotters. Irvin, who has been a head coach in his past, and he played in the ABA, and with Virginia at one time in his great ABA career. His teammates included George Iceman Gervin and Dr. J. Not bad. And he played opposite Dr. J on that front line.
Did he get any shot?
No, he didn't say
on that team. He had to learn how to pass too, didn't he?
So for the announcer, it was George Irvin and George Gervin. That had to be tough. Tough year 2000 to say it. And a missed shot, and a whistle, and a foul blown inside And that goes on Hill, who picks up his second. Raptors come in. John struggling, losing 7 of 8. Detroit has played well on the road, winning 5 of their last 6.
Well, and you've seen an up-tempo game. One of the things I was really impressed with is how quickly Detroit came out, pressuring and playing good defense. The Raptors answered by putting Muggsy Bogues in, and they created the tempo of that game. George Irvin mentioned to us that he wants this team to run on made and missed baskets and really get up and down the floor. So we've really seen a high-tempo game going up and down the floor.
Michael Curry comes in for Williams. Chet Bushler comes in for Grant Hill, joining Moore, Curry, and Stackhouse for the Detroit Pistons.
So at this pace, you're going to see a whole lot of substitutions in this game.
10 seconds to play in the half. Nice move by McGrady, working on Bushler. Rebound by Moore. Out to Hunter. Seconds ticking off. Bushler for 3 at the buzzer. Cord! Knocking it down with .2 on the second quarter clock is Christie. The length of the floor picked up by Moore. And Bushler, who's been playing great for the Detroit Pistons, puts it in right before the buzzer sounds.
Boy, McGrady made a great move to the basket, Kevin, but he got so discouraged because the referee didn't call it. He didn't go back. But that was the thing that he needs to do with his athleticism, go to the basket.
Craig Sagers with Grant Hill, who had 16 points in that second quarter. Take it away, Craig.
Well, Grant, one of your greatest assets is you let the game come to you. But you did not have a field goal until 0.2 of a second to go in the first quarter. Are you aware that you have 19 points, or did you make a conscious effort to be more aggressive offensively?
I planned it that way. I didn't want to score in the first quarter. No, it was definitely tough, and Vince got going early, and I couldn't hit a shot, but it was a long game, 48 minutes, and I got going a little bit there in the second. Jerry got going in the second, and we're up 8 now going to halftime. So come out and play hard in the second half and put ourselves in a position to win the game.
Are you going to score in the third quarter or wait till the fourth?
I'm going to score in the third.
Okay, thanks. Let's go back to Kevin and Coach.
The AT&T halftime is coming up from Atlanta with Ernie Johnson and Kenny the Jet Smith. We got a beauty here in Ontario. It's 58-50 at the half. This year.
Well, absolutely, and they can't get spooked out by it, Kevin. Early in the year, the expectations were so high. Everybody's talking about they may catch up with Miami, they may catch up with New York. Now they're trying to fight to be in a playoff position. Carter's exciting. Everybody talks about Carter. This team has accomplished a lot, and mentally they've got to be smart enough to realize that they've just got to get in focus, get on track, and get out and start playing basketball.
And let's shift gears for just a second. You came to me moments ago and said, I'm so impressed with what I see in Detroit's defense tonight.
Well, I think George has done a heck of a job of getting these guys to play with some intensity. I couldn't believe how they came out in the beginning, set a tone. And if you want to get out and run, as Butch Carter said, it starts with defense. And I think that if you look at what the Pistons have done, they're pressuring everything. Lindsey Hunter took about 3 balls in the beginning of the ball game. He even forced a substitute. They had to put Muggsy Bogues in the game because Detroit's defense was so much under pressure.
And Grant Hill has been spectacular for the Detroit Pistons. As you can see, 19 points, most of which were picked up in the second quarter. And then Vince Carter with his 13 for the game. But in foul trouble is Carter with a couple early in the game, curtailed his minutes. And he also was slapped with a technical. So that is the backdrop, which takes us to the second half. An important game in the playoff race, as all the remaining 8 after tonight will be for these 2 teams. Toronto is number 7, make it number 6 in the race, and Detroit is number 7 with Orlando at number 8. Orlando is playing tonight against San Antonio with a miss right there from Antonio Davis, and here comes Hunter, and the second half offensive possession for the Pistons.
Well, and Davis hasn't been as visible as you'd like for him to have been. I think a lot of that has to do with the outside shots that the Raptors are taking. If they want to get fouled, they have to go to the basket a little bit more than they're doing. He's fading on his shot. Most of the shots that Carter and McGrady have been taking have been deep outside shots.
Here's Christie playing with a bad ankle, and his shooting has gone down over the last 8 or 9 games. Antonio Davis knocks it in from Texas El Paso.
Well, that's a good shot, but if you want to be fouled, you still again have to go to the basket, and you have to put pressure on the defense.
Christian Laettner searching for Hill, opts to go to Hunter, who's picked up on the mismatch with Davis. That means Christie's on Mills. Mills, a specialty player, and is called for a travel. That is a turnover, and for the Pistons, number 6 of the game.
Well, I think Christie did a very good job of guarding him. I mean, they had a mismatch inside. You had Christie guarding Mills, but Christie is very active and a very good defensive player. A lot of times when a smaller man is guarding a big man in the post, he gives him more trouble because he's so active.
And the ball knocked away with 12 seconds to shoot. There's a good look at Doug Christie from Seattle, and went to the Lakers, to the New York Knicks, and now here in Toronto, where he is in the very short time he's been here, the all-time leading Raptors scorer, surpassing Damon Stoudemire back in January. And there's a foul. And Terry Mills will pick it up. That's how the scoring is gone. His name's familiar. Hill and Stackhouse, by the way, in the NBA, the #2 scoring tandem of any team in the league behind Kobe Bryant and Shaq out in Los Angeles.
Well, and the basic difference is that Hill and Stackhouse have been penetrating to the basket as opposed to taking outside shots, and as a result of it, Detroit has shot more free throws.
Pistons on top, 58-52. Stackhouse tried to force it inside. It ricochets into the hands of Hill, who is their best ball handler. Stackhouse maneuvering inside and foul.
Well, that's how you, I mean, Butch Carter mentioned when he was talking to Craig Sager about the fouls and getting himself in a situation where you get fouled. Well, if you want to be fouled, this is what you have to do. Exactly what Stackhouse is doing. He's going to the basket. He's creating contact. And if he doesn't get the shot, he'll get himself an opportunity to shoot free throws. Some of the Raptors have to wiggle their way through, as Butch Carter said that Detroit was doing, Kevin.
Well, we heard Craig Sager moments ago talk with Butch Carter, and Craig points out that they've now taken 25 free throw attempts to the Raptors, 7 free throw attempts tonight.
Well, but that's because of penetration. I mean, if you go to the basket, you're going to put yourself in a better position of being fouled. Or if you throw the ball inside, if you cut to the basket.
Seems pretty simple.
Well, see what they're doing now. They're standing. It's not a lot of movement, but they do get the ball into Davis, and Davis has been fading on his shot.
Charles Oakley had a game-winning three-point shot a couple nights ago against the Cleveland Cavaliers, standing right there. Oakley has not had a good night shooting. Only 5 points. And 1 of 5 from the field. Stackhouse to Lindsey Hunter, who takes about as many three-point shots as anybody in the NBA, missing there.
Well, he earns them too right now, because from what I can see, he's a heck of a defensive player. He gets out there and really works on defense.
Tracy McGrady with the rebound corralled by Leitner out to Grant Hill, who glides. And it looks like he's floating on air as he takes it in for 2 there.
Well, he's going right through the defense. You don't want to keep repeating yourself. One team is shooting jump shots on the outside, Kevin. The other team, it's just that simple. The other team is standing there penetrating.
Charles Oakley bumps into Leitner. McGrady on the perimeter. Christie inside. Quickly double team. More of that Detroit defense.
Well, exactly.
Open for 3 and nails it uncovered. He's not ready to sing the praises of Detroit's defense. Then Carter hands an open tray.
Well, and that's you're not going to be able to defend that because he shot a deep shot. You're absolutely correct. They were playing good defense. They're trapping everything that goes in, and they're stopping all penetration.
Stackhouse, Leitner with the screen. Hunter, nice ball rotation to him. Finally knocks one down. It's a 2 with about 8:10 to play here in the third quarter.
The way Hunter shoots the ball, I like to see Hill play in the 1 position and Hunter play in the 2.
Lindsey Hunter has 6 points. Out of bounds, 13 seconds to shoot. Detroit goes home after tonight. Coach George Irvin and the Palace of Auburn Hills will take on Boston. The Celtics are reeling and almost mathematically out of the playoff race. They were right there a couple weeks ago. Now almost on the bet they are on life support. Christie with the miss. Rebound by Hill. Again accelerates. And fouling. Johnny has not done anything outside. It's been all inside. That time right at the defense of Tracy McGrady.
If it's not broke, why fix it?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's getting the ball penetrating to the basket on everything. And if he doesn't get the shot, he gets the free throw. And I think it's just a question, Kevin, of experience, because you have the same thing with McGrady and you have the same thing out there with Carter. They have the same kind of skills to be able to penetrate the same way Stackhouse and Hill are penetrating. It's just a question of experience.
We heard moments ago from Atlanta where the people in Orlando were trying to reel in Tim Duncan with their signs and encouragement come to the Orlando Magic. What do you think Grant Hill is going to do with the Detroit Pistons? Stay or leave? He's a free agent after this season.
Well, I'll tell you, that's going to be hard to tell. I think a lot of it has to do with how both teams end up in the end of the year. You tend to want to stay with the team if things are going well for you.
Good point. Davis was pushed by Terry Mills inside. Mills won a championship in college basketball at the University of Michigan back in '89. Craig, what do you have?
Well, we're talking about the free throw discrepancy. This is the 4th time these teams have played this year. And in the 3 previous games, the Raptors have gone to the free throw line an average of 37 times. In fact, the last game they won, they went 46 times to the line. But tonight it's 27-7. Kevin?
That's interesting. McGrady hits it again. He's got 20. Craig makes a great point. The free throw differential in this game is staggering.
Well, it's almost as if the Pistons are saying, if you beat us, you're going to have to beat us from the outside. If we beat you, we're going to beat you by going inside.
Oakley gets it off to Christie. He plays the point. And here is Carter with the miss. Rebound by the industrious Charles Oakley.
I think the industrious Charles Oakley got away with a little shove that time.
He's collected
just a little bitty push.
He's collected 9 rebounds. Davis twirling inside and trying to get that launched. Rebound again, inhaled by Grant Hill. He'll come galloping the other way, which has been his bread and butter. Great spin move by Grant Hill. Oh, what a play.
Inside once again, Kevin.
But that one had an acrobatic feel to it. With a shove and a Detroit foul, and they assess that foul at the 25 points of Grant Hill, as you can see right here. Foul is called on Detroit's Lindsey Hunter. It's all Pistons by 10. They're working on his contract there, but if he can coach Penny Hardaway to health more than anything else, it should be okay, because Jason Kidd is out, maybe for the season, with the bad leg. Tom Gugliotta blew a knee. They missed Sean Marion early in the season. They changed coaches 13 games into the year. Yet Scott Skiles has kept that team not only above water, John, with the injuries and the change, but swimming to land as Carter launches and is fouled by Grant Hill.
Well, and don't be surprised. Remember, we heard from the words of wisdom when Danny Ainge was with him. Don't be surprised if Jason Kidd comes back.
Kidd told Ainge he'd be back maybe in the first round.
Hey, and if anybody you believe can do that, it would be Jason Kidd. But I love the way Penny Hardaway has stepped up and taken that burden on himself. And that's the kind of player that you expected him to be and that you knew he could be.
Carter with some free throws. The Detroit Pistons for the game are shooting 50% and lead it 67-58.
The Raptors have to play some defense. Anytime a team is getting this many layups off of cuts and penetration and post up, you got to do some trapping, and you've got to stop this kind of penetration.
Nice move. Hunter flips it out to Christian Linkner, who's a great passer, but opts to shoot there. Rebound by Carter. The Raptors shooting 37%. Christie for 3. Rebound by Oakley. Fresh 24.
Well, they're not getting inside. And I've said it 100 times. It's either the defense of Detroit or either they're not attempting to penetrate. But by standing, you've got a lot of weak side help from a lot of Detroit players. If you look at this picture, a lot of Detroit players are just standing there watching.
Christie hits his first shot tonight. He was 0 of 6 until that make right there. And he pounds in a 3. And Linkner at the other end answers with a 2. It's 69-61. Pistons lead by 8. They've led by 9. Early on, Toronto led by 10 points.
Well, and Toronto's still in this game. I don't think they've played, that well. But in the same token, they're in this game. If they get going, they'll be in great shape.
Davis triple team, handcuff. Oakley back to Davis from Carter. Right through his hands. Ricochets out of bounds. Raptors have turned it over 12 times to the 6 turnovers of the Detroit Pistons tonight.
Well, and they seem to have a little haze over them. They've just got to break loose, get loose. A lot of foolishness got to go on. You got to just have some fun and get on out there and get over this. This Raptor team is much better than it's playing, I think.
Couple substitutions now. Mikey Moore is in for Detroit. Stackhouse is in there still, as is Hunter. The shot outside. Jerome Williams comes in. Stackhouse knocks it in, and he has recorded the biggest lead tonight for the Detroit Pistons. 18 points for Stackhouse. 71-61. Both teams now have led by as many as 10. Christie's been slow. The ankle causing him problems. Charles Oakley. 36-year-old Charles Oakley could have gone to the Lakers. He could have gone back to the Knicks, but opted to stay here with the Toronto Raptors. He has 4 points and has collected 10 rebounds tonight. And does he provide still, John, the leadership that so many people suspect he does for Toronto?
Well, I think he definitely does. You know what I mean? But at some point, you know what I mean, it's very difficult because things are going bad, and they've just got to get over this, and they'll be fine.
And the nucleus is young. Timeout.
And that team deserves all the credit it's got. I mean, who would have expected them to be in a position that they're in right now? Doc's done a tremendous job with that team and been consistently doing it.
Talking to Chris Carter today, the Viking wide receiver. You wouldn't see that in the NFL. A Stackhouse will launch a 3 and miss. And here comes Toronto. You would never see that in the NFL where a player or a guy with no coaching experience shoved right into a head coaching role. But in the NBA, they do it, and they do it well. And Doc is a great case in point. Larry Bird at Indiana.
Well, I think Doc did a lot of work, you know, during the summer and stayed very close to the game, too, which helped him with that.
That was a pretty move by Vince Carter. Maybe the thing to get him on track. He's been a little quiet. 19 points. Is averaging just under 27 a game. The number 4 scorer in the NBA. Into Bogues, and not much defense by Muggsy.
Well, this guy can really shoot. I mean, he just took one dribble and jumped over top of Muggsy rather than penetrating. It was great judgment on Hunter's part because he couldn't penetrate against a smaller Muggsy, but he was able to jump over him.
Here's Oakley outside, back to Bogues, swings it over to McGrady, who's had a nice night, covered by Michael Curry, and known for his defense. Here's Carter with a spinner. Nice defense by Stackhouse.
But it's a fadeaway spinner, and he needs to go to the basket.
Stackhouse couldn't save it. And it goes back to Toronto, and turnover number 7 for the Pistons.
Well, in looking at it, the defense is there. He goes to the basket on that shot, which, you know, he has the strength to do that, and I think that that's good. You know, I mean, he catches the ball, he goes in very strong, and he puts a lot of pressure on the Detroit defense.
Carter had 10 in the first quarter, John, but only 9 since then, and he had a technical foul in there as well.
Well, I think McGrady, they've been going to McGrady an awful lot. You know, I mean, as you said, you know, he's been doing very productive for the team in the last 6 or 7, 8 games.
Under 3 to play here in the third. Trying his way inside, Bogues. Jitterbugs for the shot. Rebound by Curry. Here's a 2-on-2. Hunter streaking into Del Curry. Outside for Stackhouse, and 3 right between the eyes.
Well, Hunter set that shot up by penetrating. He pulled the defense inside, and then he pitched it outside to Stackhouse, who had just spotted up.
Stack with 21. And here's McGrady at the other end. Rebound by Hunter. Here comes Detroit running again, running far more. George Urban, and a nice pass inside to Williams, who is in a straitjacket and hands a foul to the Raptors.
Well, you look at it, off of their defense, they're pushing the ball. They're not holding it up. George Gervin said to us that he wanted to run on everything, made baskets and missed baskets. He pulls the defense and then pitches it out to Stackhouse, and Stackhouse gets an easy basket. Kevin, if you remember in talking to Butch Carter, one of the things that he said he feared is a penetrating team. He said he thought his team was defensively good as long as a team was not penetrating on him, and that's exactly what Detroit just did.
Mikey Moore with the slam. Detroit, John, is led by between 6 points, and now their big lead at 78-65 the entire time. A 13-point lead right now. Having lost 3 consecutive games, Toronto needs a win.
Well, and looking at this, Jerome sets this up by penetrating. He didn't force the shot. He dumped the shot off to Moore, and Moore got an easy basket.
Timeout.
On their way, but they're trailing now. Kevin, coach?
Thank you, Craig. That was a good-looking 3-on-2 break back in 1946, wasn't it?
No comment.
Del Curry's been a sharpshooter for the Raptors all night. He's back in the game, out there looking for Vince Carter, McGrady, Bogues, and Kevin Willis in the game. Shot clock at 4. It's McGrady tangling with Williams inside, floating one up. It's tapped and picked up by Curry out there at Moore, Crotty, Grant Hill, Williams, and here comes Grant Hill. Detroit has made 8 of their last 11 shots in this game. Jerome Williams, the hesitation in the drive, and again, He gets the foul.
No basket.
Foul called on Kevin Willis. 3 fouls on him. Basket will not count, much to the chagrin of Jerome.
I think Jerome's a little upset about that.
He can't figure that out. He said, wait a minute.
Jerome said, with Graham Hill and Stackhouse on the team, I don't get a chance to shoot that much. When I shoot, I want the basket. Boy, was he upset.
Oh, man. Detroit suddenly become a fun team to watch.
Well, they have, and it's a question of experience. I mean, you look at this. Graham picks his spots. I mean, he drives about 6 or 7 times. Then shoots a little push shot. You know, once McGrady and Carter get the kind of experience that those 2 guys have on the Detroit team, they'll be very similar to that.
Biggest lead for the Pistons tonight. About a minute to play in the third. No look pass. Carter to Curry for 3. And Curry continues to shoot outstanding from the field. 6 of 7, 12 points so far.
Well, that's the guy that should be taking those shots out there like that. He and Oakley, because Oakley basically shoots a set shot, and Curry is a specialist at being able to hit those shots quickly.
Nice ball rotation. Crotty to Curry. And the rebound fought for. A 9-2 run right now for the Detroit Pistons.
You know, right now, looking at the Raptors, they look a little frustrated. I think they have to jump a psychological hurdle. You know and I know that this team is much better. Butch Carter indicated the fact that, you know, that these guys just have to get themselves going. And you need a little bit of luck, too, when that is going on with your team. The meetings and all those things are fine, but you've got to get out here and win a ball game.
Yep. Coming into this game, a lot of rumors of discord and tension inside the Toronto locker room, because they have been losing. Mikey Moore shuffling inside. Fight for it. Dug out by Curry. The other way he goes. And fouled and shooting. Del Curry knocks it in. He thought he was fouled on the play. He just kept going. And because of that, it worked out and he hits the shot. Seconds to play in the third.
Look who's handling the ball now, Kevin.
Yeah. It's like this at the end of every game.
That's everything to sweep the floor. And he might even do that.
At crucial times, it always goes into the hands of Grant Hill. But Del Curry, who led the NBA in three-point shooting last year for Milwaukee, has been spectacular. Because of him, the Toronto Raptors end the quarter on a 5-0 run, all authored by Curry. And so the Raptors are still breathing, although down by 10 at the end of 3. The Pistons have dominated tonight in the paint, 38-18. And Toronto has been outscored, John, now in the paint in 11 of their last 13 games.
Well, and particularly is significant here at home, because in your own home, you want to run to get the crowd involved in it. You want to also penetrate to get the crowd involved, and that's how you know become scored against. I mean, it's just a question of shooting those jump shots outside the way they've been doing, Kevin.
Tried to go inside, and a whistle. Well, for the 12th consecutive game, Toronto does not take a lead going into the fourth quarter. And that is usually spelled doom for this team, which is riding a 3-game losing streak, having lost 7 of their last 8. And with the playoffs quickly approaching, they are heading in the wrong direction.
Well, terribly the wrong direction. Even if they made the playoffs, psychologically, they're not in the right frame of mind to go into playoff kind of competition.
After a 3-second violation at the other end, a foul is called on the Pistons' Jerome Williams. That is number 2 on Jerome.
Well, you know, and when the Raptors do penetrate, Kevin, what is so interesting is that most of their layups are finesse kind of layups rather than power layups where you have a tendency to draw fouls off of.
Here's Christie, who is staggered from the field tonight. A screen by Carter, back into Carter, lunging to the rack, and a whistle and a foul. So more of that, and Toronto may not find themselves in this kind of disrepair. The foul called on Mikey Moore.
Well, you're going to get fouled if you go to the basket. You know, in their first 3 meetings, Antonio Davis had 8 free throws attempt. Tonight he's had none. Vince Carter had 11. Tonight he's had 6. Tracy McGrady, had 4. And now he's had 1. So, now you're looking at a situation that's totally different.
You see a couple of kids leading the team, McGrady and Curry, or Carter rather. John, what does it mean for a team whose nucleus is young and effective, and the veterans are talking about veteran leadership, and maybe when they need it the most, it's not having the kind of roar that it should?
Well, a lot of the leadership in basketball comes with the people who are scoring. And when you have the younger guys doing most of the scoring, you need some maturity there. You need one guy there with some maturity that knows how to pick his shots. You may statistically have a lot of points, but they may not be the right kind of points to help you to win a ball game or at the right time.
Lane violation, offered another free throw for Carter. Here comes Hill. Crotty is at the point. Williams in there with Moore and Curry. John Crotty, who backed up Gary Payton last year in Seattle, off to Jerome Williams, and the reverse with some English on it won't go. Offensive rebound, Moore off balance, and down it goes.
Well, and they're putting so much pressure on the Raptor defense by going to the basket, and that's the one thing that Butch Carter told us that they were not good at, is defending penetration.
Pistons are shooting 52% from the field to Toronto's 39% from the floor tonight.
Well, and interestingly enough, Kevin, there's not a lot of set plays being run. They either stand around throwing in the post or they get in transition baskets. In this whole game, you haven't seen a lot of half-court sets run.
Toronto's a light team, John, in terms of weight and height. In the NBA, they're 28th, so near the bottom. They're not big and they're not bulky.
Well, then you better play some quick defense. You got to rebound and get out of that. You can't push what you can't catch. You can't be light and slow.
Curry the miss. Rebound by Grant Hill. Grant Hill has 6 rebounds tonight. With his great night shooting. A lot of it came in the second quarter, exploding for 16. Doubled his Curry. Crotty maneuvering over to 5-3 Bogues with a miss. Rebound through the hands of Willis. Saved by Carter. Bats it off to Curry. Alley-oop for Willis, and no one was there except the defensive Grant Hill. And then it's Williams the other way. Galloping to the other end. And a foul, and frustration setting in for Toronto.
Well, that's a perfect example. You come down this end, and Curry throws Willis an alley-oop that they get no foul. Jerome gets the ball, penetrates him, and drives to the basket and gets a foul.
Well, San Antonio is going to lose in Orlando. Phoenix could pick up a full game on the 5th-seeded Spurs should they beat the Lakers tonight. A tall order, but nonetheless, that's what's in front of them. Put some distance between the Suns and the Spurs with a Phoenix win tonight. But again, you continue to be marveling at the job of Orlando. A bunch of cast-offs and wannabes put together by Doc Rivers with 32 different players and 27 separate transactions. A great deal of movement by John Gabriel, the GM in Orlando, and head coach Doc Rivers. You saw Vince Carter on the bench. Here's Jerome Williams. He's feisty. How is that feisty for you in Washington, D.C., Georgetown?
He's always worked hard. Jerome is the kind of guy that will come out there and give you in practice and in the game everything he has. And he's a high-energy guy and a high-spirited person.
Detroit has taken 28 free throws, Toronto 11. Butch Carter thought they had to have at least 25 or 30 attempts tonight to be in the game with the Pistons.
Well, you have to do some penetrating. I think even Detroit is playing exceptional defense, so their shot selection of the Raptors are not the kind of things that lend you to getting fouled.
Charlotte has won tonight, so that's interesting as it tightens up the divisional race and the Eastern Conference race. So a lot of games going on right now, and Toronto continues to fall while these other teams continue to thrive. Christie knocked it away.
Well, he knocked it away, but it's interesting when it comes down to a time and score situation. Grant Hill is the guy that has the ball for Detroit. He either makes the basket or makes the play. Toronto has been no closer than 6 points this half. Grant Hill, great touch
from outside.
When you ask about Detroit, who's playing the point guard, you've got to say in what quarter. Because in the fourth quarter, Grant Hill is playing it.
And he doesn't want to play the point. Doesn't like playing the point.
Well, I tell you, whether he likes it or not, he certainly does do a good job.
McGrady inside.
I'd like to see him do a lot more of that, Kevin. A lot more going to the basket.
109 to play now here in the fourth quarter. 22 for McGrady. Only 4, however, this half. There's a foul. That goes on Grant Hill, who's got 29 points and 4 fouls.
I really didn't see that foul. That was an interesting call. I tell you, Detroit is doing a great job of defending the post also, because most of the time when Toronto gets the ball, they fade from outside, from the inside.
Doug Christie hits a rare shot tonight. Friday the other way. Christie is 2 of 8. Hill picked up by the aforementioned Christie. Flies into him. And a foul as Christie, I think, got a bloody nose on that defensive stop, or attempted stop. He's got 2 fouls.
Every time Hill gets the ball, he either gets the basket, he gets the foul, or he makes the play for somebody else to get a basket.
Ronnie will leave, and they'll bring in Lindsey Hunter. 2-time West Coast Conference Player of the Year at Pepperdine.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who handles the ball now for them, because Hill has been handling it. And Hunter has been doing a better job, according to George Irvin.
With his defense. Leitner tapped it, but right back to McGrady. 9-point game. Big shot by Christie. Pistons take a timeout. Doug Christie's hit 2 in a row. The Raptors are on a 7-0 run. And the Detroit lead, one time, at 13 points, is down to 6. This is the NBA on TNT.
These guys have also worked hard. And of course, they're not all the guys who come in night out, who are unsung heroes, don't get attention for the things they've done and they are doing or have accomplished. But every day I think they deserve something. You know, I'm definitely appreciative. Yeah, I get attention, but these guys have really been the backbone and helped me grow and progress.
Stackhouse with the miss. Out of bounds off to Troy. Yeah, it's one of the other guys for Toronto. In this case, Doug Christie's hit his last 3 shots.
I think it's got to be other guys, but I don't tend to like that. It's not just me speech. You know, I think when you've got the ability, you've got to do some things. You include other people.
Be selfish?
Well, and sometimes you don't have to be selfish. And selfishness is not bad. Deprivation is bad when you deprive other people. But he has talent, so you want him to do a lot of things.
Hill the miss. Here comes McGrady searching inside. Thrown away again. Another steal by Hunter. Here goes Hill, fouled by Bogues to the other end. Lindsey Hunter with 2 steals for the Pistons in the span of 10 seconds.
Well, and that's the way he started off the game. If you remember, he set the tempo for the game by making steals. I thought that Toronto got back in the ball game because of the fact that Detroit didn't continue the fast break. Hunter steals out and gives it off to Hill. Muggsy fouls him because he knows he's going into the basket.
And look at the steals, 10-1 in favor of the Pistons. Yeah, you've noticed a change of tempo in the Pistons have.
Well, I think the Pistons might have gotten a little too cautious and controlled it. Grant was controlling the tempo, trying to burn clock, taking his shot at the latter part of the shot clock. As a result of it, the Raptors, Kevin, got back in the ball game. Now they come out, they make a couple of steals, and they start to run a little bit. They've got to step the pace up and be cautious and not take bad shots.
7-point lead for the Detroit Pistons. 30 for Grant Hill, the 26th time. This season, he's at 30 points or more. Last year, just 8 times of 30 points or more. And that shooting coach has paid dividends. Like we said before, having the best year of his career. Bogues Gets it off to Christie. He's hit 3 in a row until that miss right there. McGrady was going up, climbing the ladder, and fouled on the play by Stackhouse. Stackhouse picks up number 2. Here it's 86-79, the Pistons. Let's go to Ernie Johnson in Atlanta.
All right, thank you, Kevin. The Minnesota Timberwolves have struggled lately, losing 2 in a row. Good news for them, the Atlanta Hawks coming to town. But the bad news, Terrell Brandon can't play tonight. He's got the flu. Game tied at 73, 3 ticks to go. Bonus coverage with Bob Rathman and Mike Glenn.
He may overplay the ball right here and step out so they can see the lineup and see what's happening. So they have a delay of game as well as a foul to give. Let's see if Coach Wilkins plays it that way. No, they're going to play it straight out. Still have a foul to give, however.
Serbiak to get it in, calls time. At 1 full left at his disposal, and the rookie from Miami of Ohio uses it here with 3.6 seconds left. The NBA's leading shooting team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, have struggled mightily tonight, shooting 35% for the evening. Kevin McHale has died 1,000 deaths over there in his seat here at the Target Center. Minnesota trying to close in on the 4th spot in the West and lock up home court for the first round. Lost a heartbreaker here to Phoenix 2 days ago, and they trailed the Suns by 4 losses in that all-important loss column, and they've got 6 of their final 8 on the road.
Take a look at this inbound play.
Well, these things happen from time to time. We'll keep you up to speed on that game as they're in a timeout tied at 73. Let's get back to Kevin Harlan and John Thompson, guys.
Tracy McGrady just hit 2 free throws. He has 24 points and 10 rebounds tonight. Pistons do not have any more fouls to give. 6.5 to play here in the 4th. This is the closest it's been since the first half. Off Antonio Davis.
Well, Antonio Davis made a great play because Grant Hill has been penetrating, pulling the defense. If he didn't score, he'd find somebody. Davis blocked the pass that time.
10 seconds to shoot. Hill to Stackhouse. Maneuvering on Carter. Outside, Jerome Williams has played well. Rebound is cradled by Carter.
Well, and Jerome is not the guy that you want to take that shot from the corner. He had to take it because of the shot clock. It's more Stackhouse fault for throwing it to him rather than not going back to Hill.
Here's McGrady finding Carter off balance. Can't get it. He is staggered in the second half for the Raptors tonight.
Well, that's not the kind of shots you want to take. You don't want to be falling out of bounds shooting the ball at this point.
Oh, Stackhouse out of bounds. He stepped, wipe it away. That will take you out of your chair. That was a spectacular dunk.
Well, I think you have to stay on the court.
Yeah, you got to stay in the court.
The defense is the only part of the game that's allowed to go to the concession stand, Kevin.
That's right. I like it. Detroit shooting 46%. Toronto shooting 38% tonight. Here's Bogues. Christie has been hot as on the bench. McGrady, Bogues, Carter, Willis, and Antonio Davis. Shot clock at 2, and they got it in Willis's hands. That's not what they wanted.
Well, it's a typical kind of shot. Even though the ball was in the post, Detroit's defense is forcing a fadeaway shot. Even they post up, people are not going to the basket.
Pistons with Mikey Moore, Williams, Hunter, Stackhouse, and Hill. A lot of energy-type players on the floor right now for the Detroit Pistons who try to counter the 9-1 run by Toronto.
Well, and good defenders are in the game, as you indicated.
Atlanta, Minnesota has gone to overtime. If anything develops in OT, we'll take you immediately there. And a timeout taken by the Toronto Raptors.
Well, and I see Del Curry's coming back in the game. If they're going to take the kind of shots they've been taking, the Raptors might as well put the best shooter on the court in the game.
The Raptors, after winning 11 of 12, have lost 7 of 8. And we've talked a lot of times tonight about the reported problems in the locker room and how it's been addressed. A couple of days ago, Tracy McGrady, John, said our ship is sinking and sinking fast.
Well, and that's another example. You're talking about meetings and talking too much. There's not a team in the league that doesn't have problems in the locker room or off the court. You got to deal with those things. It's how you manage those things that makes you a successful team.
Also, don't you think it's different when you become the hunted instead bit of you hunting, like has been the case for the Raptors before this year?
Well, absolutely, Kevin. These guys aren't taking people by surprise anymore. With all the publicity that Carter has received and all the attention that they've received, people are coming now looking for them. They're not going to take anybody by surprise. And they've got to stop this talk and cut this meeting out and go ahead on and just play basketball.
Contrast, Detroit has been playing great. They've won 5 of their last 6 on the road. Here comes Toronto with under 5 to play here in the 4th.
But you also, Kevin, have the most inexperienced player, McGrady, out handling the ball as opposed to Hill down the other end for Detroit.
Lost right there, picked up by Jerome Williams. Again, show us that dribbling that has been so outstanding tonight. 16 Toronto turnovers. Here's Stackhouse over Curry. Rebound through the hands of Carter. Falls over Williams, and a loose ball foul assessed on Jerome Williams. Showing his frustration.
No, I couldn't tell whether he's frustrated or hurt in that. I think he made a great effort in going after the loose ball.
4 fouls, walk to the other end. Detroit, 10 more steals than the Raptors. Quiet night for Vince Carter at the free throw. And I say quiet, as Detroit has missed their last 6 field goals. He has a 6 of 8 night going from the field.
Well, that's part of the problem. The Raptors have had a quiet night all night from the free throw line, Kevin. You know, with the athleticism that they have, if these guys start going to the basket, even when they're posting up, they're fading to the corner. And particularly on your home court, the crowd participating in the game has an effect on how the game is going to be called. And if you run in, you go in and penetrate, you get the crowd involved as opposed to just shooting up long shots and fading on your post-ups.
Carter 7 of 10 from the free throw line. 4-point game. Pistons on top, 4.5 to play. Stackhouse to Moore, defended by Davis. Shot clock at 4. Moore again. Second time in the second half he's had that same shot.
Well, you know, they're really getting the ball inside, but that was the first time I saw the Raptors try to trap. I thought they should have trapped a little bit more early in the game, particularly with Detroit's penetration being the way it was.
Curry throws it away, aiming for McGrady. It's another turnover. And the 17th for the Raptors.
Yeah, but you're talking about the inexperience again. I mean, you've got guys handling the ball that are young, as opposed to this gentleman that has the ball right now for the Pistons.
Pistons have scored just 3 points in the last 5 minutes. Moore again. Shoved and hits it nonetheless with the hook.
Well, and look at the difference between Moore once he gets the ball in the post. He's getting a point-blank layup as opposed to the Raptors when they got the ball in the post. They were fading to the corner.
Mikey Moore off the bench. 10 points and 6 rebounds. The CBA refugee starring tonight. Second half for the Pistons. And one of the interesting stories, John, about the Los Angeles Lakers, last week Rick Fox began to emerge as a scorer, and that's just another dimension to the Los Angeles attack.
Is anything else coming with them? I mean, they're really playing well, and Shaquille is just playing as well as you could even ask a player to play at both ends of the court. And, you know, now other guys are starting to get better. That was the thing that I said about McGrady, that you want to see him play well. That's not a reflection on Carter not playing well. You want this team, if it's going to be in the playoffs, to develop people to play. You got a guy like Del Curry in this game who's stepping up. You're going to need all of these people in the playoffs.
Toronto has gotten within 6 points 5 separate times this half, and within 4 points once, but no closer than that. Detroit shooting 48%. Toronto shooting 38% from the field. McGrady into Carter, driving, shoved, and a whistle with a foul.
Not as pretty.
On Moore with his third.
Not as pretty, Kevin, but I like that shot. Yeah. You're going towards the basket. You're creating a foul. You're stopping the clock. You're doing a lot of things that are positive. You're getting somebody in foul trouble. You do that much earlier, it's a different kind of ball game.
Vince Carter, an 80% free throw shooter. It's the first 7-point game.
Kevin, I don't like that it's not just me speech from him. I just think you got to get out there. You can't make everybody even to you. He's got a lot of talent. He can pass the ball when he doesn't have shots, but they need him to step up into play. You know, he seems to be conscious of the attention that he's getting. He needs to just go ahead and play the game and let it take care of itself.
24 for Carter. 9 of 12 from the free throw line. McGrady is on Hill. And they isolate. And he pitches it outside. Stackhouse for 3. Oh, that could be the dagger.
Well, that's the difference. At one end, you have McGrady handling the ball a lot, who's probably the most inexperienced player on the team. At the other end, you have Hill handling the ball. If Hill doesn't get the shot, he makes good judgments because of experience, and he finds somebody else to get the ball, too.
Stackhouse with 24. Muggsy Bogues with the shot. Short, gathered in by Hill. Here's Stackhouse. Buckle up! Well, I thought it was Stackhouse who lost the ball and tried to feed to the trailing Moore. And they go the other way. McGrady on the alley-oop pass from Muggsy Bogues. Muggsy tonight with 5 assists off the bench. Grant Hill right down the middle. And Grant Hill tonight with 32 points for the Pistons.
Not bad for a man to start it off not scoring at all, is it?
To the final 10 seconds of the first quarter.
Well, it's not how many you get, it's when you get them, Kevin, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing that's just so significant. And, you know, the experience of the Raptors, you know, one day these guys will be experienced. One day they will take better shots as opposed to just deep jumpers.
McGrady tries the 3. Rebound hauled in by Williams. Now to Stackhouse. Held by McGrady. 1:33 to play. Pistons on top by 9. And a foul, number 3 on Tracy McGrady. Butch Carter's got his hands full going into the final 8 games. John Thompson of the season. Right now the Buzzards circling overhead. They may lose their 8th game in their last 9 tonight. 4th in a row. And 4th in a row at home.
Well, and I think he knows that he has his hands full, as he told us. It's just a question of overcoming this psychological hurdle.
Well, tell me about the Raptors, John, who trailed the Detroit Pistons 95-86. You've watched them now for a second time this season. What stands out in your mind about this team, and where do they need to go?
Well, one of the things I think needs to happen is, first of all, they need to have one other meeting, and only the coach needs to talk. You know, that democracy stuff is fine, but he needs to talk and talk alone. The other thing is that they're playing like a team that doesn't realize what they have accomplished. This team has accomplished an awful lot this year. They've done a great job. Butch Carter has done a great job, but they're playing as if they're a team that spooks. Sometimes you've got to let people look in the mirror at themselves. They maybe need to look at some film, Kevin, when they were playing extremely well.
Foul called on Muggsy Bogues. Detroit has outscored Toronto 9-4 in the last 2.5 minutes after the Raptors had closed to within 4 points. As you take a look, Muggsy Bogues and Mikey Moore gave him some nice minutes, John, in this 4th quarter. Clutch baskets, off-balance shots. Pretty nimble for a 7-footer.
Well, and I think he does make, you know, a big difference, but he makes a big difference because you've got a guy like Grant Hill with a lot of experience handling the ball. You talk about the differences in scoring in a lot of parts of this game. Well, there is going to be a difference when you have an experienced guy handling the ball as opposed to a young guy who's still learning the game. I think Tracy McGrady is a great player. I also think Carter is a great player. They're very exciting players.
Of his young career. Here's McGrady right here, working on Williams, skipping down the lane to the hole for 2. He's got a career high 28 points tonight.
Well, and where has that been early in the game? That's the kind of shot he should have taken earlier. You make a difference. You chase some players out of the game because they're getting foul trouble.
The penetration you're talking about.
Definitely the penetration.
Stackhouse to Jerome Williams, thrown down by Antonio Davis with a technical foul. talked about frustration. We talked about tension. We talked about locker room discord. All are bubbling to the top in this game for the Raptors.
Well, it is just a question of frustration now. You know, in that situation, you know, I think you're frustrated. The team wants to win. You know, these guys will win. They're very capable of winning, but they've got to just, you know, settle down and get on to playing basketball the way they were playing it earlier.
Let's go to Craig Sager.
You mentioned the career-high 28 points by Tracy McGrady. You also mentioned at the beginning of the show that he's been the best player lately for Toronto. He also has 11 rebounds, and the team has tied a team record with 3 players in double figures in rebound. McGrady is also there with 11, along with Charles Oakley and Antonio Davis. So they're doing a good job on the boards, but giving up 99 points right now and not doing very good defensively. Kevin?
Yeah, 99 points to the second highest scoring team in the NBA, the Pistons.
Well, you know, and even though statistically McGrady is doing well, he's acquiring experience, Kevin. You know, I mean, I just feel that his handling the ball, being the youngest player on the floor, you know, as much as he's had to handle the ball in the latter stages of this game, reflects the score also.
Here comes Stackhouse with the drive. Another impossible shot sunk by Jerry Stackhouse, who's having an incredible season. Maybe, John, the most improved player this year in the NBA. We saw number 27 drop right there.
Well, and he's heading towards the basket, which opens up for his jump shot. You know, and also he's been playing defense extremely well as a team. I think that the Pistons definitely came out and set the tone for this ball game by playing such aggressive defense and getting out and getting their fast break going.
Season series will be tied at 2 wins apiece. Brady pops one up after a career 28-point night tonight, career high with 40 seconds now left in the game. Pistons will go to 38 and 35. Raptors will drop to 40 and 34. They could have hit 500, or guaranteed at least a 500 season with the win tonight for the first time in their franchise's history, but it's not going to happen. Williams again, whacked by Davis again, and then throws the ball at the official, showing his frustration.
Well, the thing I like that Jerome did, he got hit very hard the last time, but he went right back towards the basket again to take that lick again and put himself on the foul line. You know, you look at this, I mean, he hustles down a loose ball, he goes into the basket, and Davis just clobbers him.
Coming up, game 2, the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. San Antonio has lost tonight to the vastly improved Orlando Magic with a extended homestand that has got them hitting the right stride at the right time. And Toronto is just the opposite. Losing tonight their 4th consecutive game in the last 9 games.
Well, and sometimes, Kevin, you have to hit this point, you know, in order to rise and go up and get done what you have to get done out there.
Brady and Carter inside, kind of half-heartedly, and fouled by Grant Hill. 5 of 6 wins on the road coming up into this game tonight. Now they've won 6 of 7 on the road under George Urban.
And I just love the defense he has in play. I mean, he has these guys protecting the inside, which is one of their soft spots defensively. So they did a great job of stopping people from scoring inside.
John, they've been running too, and that's been fun to watch. They got the athletes to pull it off. Pistons come up with a big win. It's their second, make it 3rd consecutive win on the road. Toronto back-to-back home losses by 21 points, then 16, losing tonight 104-88. So Orlando wins a half game back at Detroit. Toronto is sinking in the East. 8 games to go. Wow. Special thanks tonight to Jim Baker, Catherine Zawicki, Tom Yohe, and Barry Landis, along with Wayne Fiddleman. Our producer, Mike Burks. And our director tonight, Billy McCoy. Final again, Detroit beats Toronto 104-88 for John Thompson and Craig Sager. Kevin Harlan saying so long. Coming up after a short break, Game 2, the